Alright, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. This is a ponytail palm tree, even though it's not really a tree and it's definitely not even related to palm trees at all. It is a succulent. There's a scientific name for them. I'll put that in the description or in the title and or description. Sometimes I have a way of always screwing up names like that. You can see it's growing quite nicely. And maybe even, a little overgrown here, being that the fronds are reaching down below the pot and everything. I've had this for about 5 years, I guess. I kept it for 3 years in a much smaller terracotta pot. You can see here where I repotted it. I thought I was going to have to break that pot to get it out of there. You can see where it just had the entire mat of roots on the outside of that pot. I thought that when I clipped them off, I'd have like somewhat of a root ball, but it turned out that it's just one of these succulents that actually just all the roots hit the edge of the pot, stop there, and then just kind of gather right there. So once I clipped the roots off, there really wasn't much left. What I'd like to do today is I'm going to repot it and just kind of raise it up, just to kind of make a little, try to let the caudex swell a little more than it is. I can already tell right now this wouldn't even fit into a terracotta pot like I had it in before, so it has grown quite a bit like it, So the first thing I'm going to do is cut off all these lower fronds. Some of them are old and just kind of pull off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up probably 2 or 3 levels from where they're kind of ready to fall off there. You can see when they get old, they just kind of fall off the bottom. I do keep this in full sun. I water it maybe 2-3 times all winter, and then in the summer, whatever kind of rain it gets is all the water it gets. Seems to do quite well like that. I'm gonna try to get some pictures of the ones in my neighborhood right now. Once they flower, they'll actually branch up some. I've heard that some of them do better in the ground. Then there's a couple different cultivars of them. Some of them do better in the ground, and some of them do better in a pot. I've been having a hard time. I've been trying to, do a little research and figure out how to tell the difference of what you have. The ones in the ground that get the really big stumps are commonly called elephant foot. And sometimes I actually think the only difference between them might be when you put them in the ground versus not. I don't really have a place in the ground for this right now. I did have a smaller one my neighbor had given me that she says is the type to put in the ground, and I accidentally mowed that one over. So if I'm going to put this one in the ground, I definitely want to have it big enough to where I can see it. I can see this. She gave me a little sprig. Trim the lower ones off. Let's see what that looks like now. Kind of surprised that many pulled off the bottom that easily. Probably see as I'm working along, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but the end of several of them are brown. And I noticed that that'll just kind of die back here, and then the new growth will be all that's left. You can see it's got a new burst here, which is probably causing some of the bottom ones to kind of, I don't know if die off is the word, but they just kind of lose their usefulness. And I imagine that's where it got the nickname ponytail palm, because that's pretty much how a palm tree kind of goes. Gets all of its growth out of the middle, out of the top, and then the bottom growth just kind of dies off over time. I have some Erica palms out back, and those bottom fronds will just fall off. Where I have some date palms out front that need to be trimmed. They don't just fall off on their own. Still a lot going down there down beyond the bottom of the pot, but I think that's about as far up as I'm going to go. You see there where it's exposed, like another inch or so of the trunk. This is one of the trees that just did surprisingly well through the hurricane. I mean, I was actually kind of shocked at how well this one did. I have it on a little wobbly stand. Just so that it can grow freely and all these palms or all the fronds aren't sitting right on the ground. And I noticed it kind of actually keeps it from getting attacked by ants too much. The ants will crawl their way up. But it didn't even leave the plant stand. It was still sitting right on the plant stand, just like I left it. It was kind of amazing, actually. But let's go ahead and repot it, see what it looks like. All right, let's take a look at what we got here. I do plan to reuse most of this soil since it's only been 2 years. I had that thing in regular garden soil and that other terracotta pot, and it was doing just fine. And again, it's a succulent. It doesn't really quite have the nutritional needs of a normal tree. So what I would like to do, this thing also has a screen in the bottom of it because I do have this in pretty much, I have this actually in the old cheaper mix that I used to use that has turfus in it. So I'm going to get some of that kind of in the bottom of the pot. I plan to cut those roots off and of course throw the roots away, and then just let some of the older soil go down to the bottom of the pot, cover that screen up and everything, and then just put some top dressing on the pot or on top with the better soil that I have now. Pot it just a little bit higher. Allow this to swell up a little more even in this pot before I go up potting it anymore. And again, it is just like I had the last time, just a big wall of roots. And so what I'm going to do first, well, what I should do first is take that screen out of the bottom. There we go. I can tell this is one of my older trees that I put together as a, this is like, I was using the window screen a lot. I still may use it from time to time. I think the bigger screen definitely works a little bit better. Especially now, this seems to be ripping up. I won't put any new screen in here. It's already kind of filled in there. And it's not, you can see the way that this succulent does come right to the edge of the pot and then just fill it all up. It was barely escaping. It was escaping a little bit in and around that screen. And so I'm just going to go ahead and let whatever falls in there, fall in there. It'll probably lose a little out of the bottom, but then it'll re-pop out itself pretty quickly. I mean, I did this in 2 years, so I don't think a bunch of substrate falling out of the bottom will be too much of a problem for me. I never move it around. I always just leave it in that one spot. Usually when I repot succulents, I don't water them until I notice new growth. And since we don't have any rain, just sprinkled a little bit the other day, and now we don't have any rain for at least a week, I can get it right back out there in the sun. It should be just fine. Look at that. And again, just that mat of roots right around the edge of the pot, and not much left to it after that. And that actually should be right about a perfect height there. I'm going to dig it out just a little more. I'll take some of the matted up stuff, knock it on down into the pot, and then just take some of this new soil I got and basically top dress it. and probably let it go for about another 2 years. I was thinking about doing this sometime this summer, but then you got to protect it from rain. I'm on spring break right now, and this will give it a good chance to just kind of reestablish itself without any rain. Didn't really do any big root pruning to it other than cut the main roots off that were attached to this. A little water probably wouldn't even hurt it right away, or a little rain. I noticed that, like with a lot of succulents that you're not supposed to water after disturbing the roots, if it's rainwater, it's not really nearly as bad as if you water it. I think there's just something about rainwater that just plants like, even if it's not really time to water them or not. Sometimes it's kind of hard to explain my feelings on that, and that's just, sometimes that's also just my feelings. I'm not going to take and do anything all that scientific with that. Alright, there we have it. Got it planted just a little bit higher up in the pot than what it was. I'd be willing to bet that I barely even noticed this thing missing a beat. I just need to remember to water it in maybe 2 weeks, maybe a little less. It is, we've had a couple cool nights, and now it's supposed to be hot for the next week with no chance of rain. We'll see what next week brings. But I will get it right back out there in the sun.